Good morning. It's good to be with you on this Thursday morning. I hope you have, today's it, y'all. We have made it through John's Gospel. Today is the last day that we're going to be reading John's Gospel, and we have made it all the way through. And we're gonna, I was thinking about what we'll do starting tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 20th of December, so we have about another, counting Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, we have about another 6 or 7, 8, I think technically. I'm looking at the calendar right now behind me, or in front of me rather. Um, um, Days left in this year. I think what we're going to do for the rest of this year is we're just going to look at one of the daily readings out of the daily lectionary, out of the morning office that I read from every morning. We'll just read one of those. Pick one of those every morning. I don't know which one it'll be. When I'm doing my morning devotional, I'll kind of figure out which one speaks to me the most, and we'll go from there. And we'll do that through the rest of this year. And then we'll start something in the new year. So I'd love any suggestions that you would like to study. We can. I'd love to kind of hear where you'd like to see us go next. Probably will be an Old Testament book because we've kind of rotating old and new, old and new. So we'll we'll do the daily lectionary from the morning office through the rest of this year, through the rest of this calendar year. And maybe we may take a few days off here and there, particularly with Christmas and Christmas Eve and traveling schedule and things like that. But we'll do that the rest of this year, and then next year we'll start some of the Old Testament. So comment below, message me, reach out to me. I'd love to hear any suggestions you have for what to study next. But let's read um, John 21, verses 15 through 25. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said, Feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said, Take care of my sheep. Third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, Do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. When you're old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. And he said to him, Follow me. Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. This is the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, Lord, who is going to betray you? When Peter saw him, he asked, Lord, what about him? Jesus answered, If I wanted him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Because of this, the rumor spread among the believers that this disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say that he would not die. He only said, If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? This is the disciple who testifies to these things and who wrote them down. We know that his testimony is true. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. I love that last line of the gospel. If we told you everything Jesus did, there wouldn't be enough books in all the world. I just think that's a great, way to end the gospel, particularly a gospel like John's, which is so creative and so beautiful and so mystical and theological. So I love that end to John's gospel. If he told us everything he did, we'd run out of paper, we'd run out of ink. We couldn't record everything that he did if we did that. There's a lot of cool things. I always like the line where Jesus says, there will come a time when they will dress you and lead you to where you do not want to go." I use that line a lot about getting older. That they just are going to tell you where you're going to go, and there is, something interesting. We can reflect upon that from a notion of the frailty of life. That when we are a certain age, we do think we're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and that nothing bad will ever befall us. We'll have infinite strength and power and wisdom, and we all are frail, y'all. There comes a time in all of our lives when they will take us by the hand and lead us to where we do not want to go. That is the way of the world. That is the way of life. We don't live forever. We don't live forever. We will all one day draw our last breath, and if it be God's will, wake up in glory the next breath. What a joy that will be. Um, but we have I want to talk about the three times Jesus says, Peter, do you love me? And we could I don't really want to delve into the Greek because the Greek for these words love is different. And Jesus basically is saying, "Do you love me?" He's saying using a certain word for love. And Peter responds back, "Well, I love you," but he's not using the same word Jesus is. So what we're seeing happen here in the Greek is that Jesus is saying, "Hey, do you love me like this?" And Peter says, Lord, I'm afraid. And eventually the Lord says, I'm going to let you, I'm going to meet you where you are. This is where you are in your faith. That's where I'm going to meet you. And that's interesting. So if you look at the actual Greek, the way Jesus does is that it isn't that he lowers the expectation for Peter, but he understands where Peter is. Jesus knows who you are, friends. Jesus knows your weaknesses. He knows your strengths. He knows your inadequacies. He knows what you can and what you cannot do. Jesus knows you. He does. He knows you. Don't fear. Do not feel as though your faith or your efforts are inadequate because they're not. Jesus knows what you're capable of. He knows what you can do, both in the good ways, like the great things you can do, but he also knows that there's some stuff you can't do. And he understands that. And he meets Peter where he is. So if you want to use a tool like the Net Bible online, you can really trace the Greek here and see what's happening back and forth there. But I want to kind of wind up with Jesus' final command to Peter. And what's that? Follow me. Follow me. And that's when Peter says, "Hey, what about him? What about that guy? What about him?" And how often in our lives do we hear the command of God? Hey, I need you to do this, whatever this is. I need you to do this thing here. Lord says, I need you to follow me. I need you to be faithful in this area. I need you to do this thing here. And how often do we want to say, Lord, well, what about them? What not, what about them? Can they not do the thing that you need done? Or Lord, you know, they're not being faithful. Why do I have to be? I mean, how often in our life have we done comparison is the thief of joy? How often in our life have we compared our faith, God's call to us, our journey to someone else? And Peter's doing that here. Peter's saying, Lord, okay, follow me. He says, follow me. Peter says, well, what about him? What about John? What about John? What about him? Jesus basically says, what is John to you? He said, if I want John to live till I return, what does that matter to you? Don't worry about John. If I want him to remain alive till now, what is that to you? You must follow me. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them, friends. Don't worry about what they're doing. Don't worry about what they're not doing. Don't worry about what God has called them to. Don't worry about what you think God may have called them to. Don't worry about them, friends. Don't worry about them. Follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. The devil would love for us to focus more on them than on following him. Don't worry about them, y'all. What is that to do with you? What is someone else's decision? Someone else's inadequacy? Someone else's faithfulness? Someone else's failure? Don't look down at them. Don't look up to them. Just follow Jesus. Follow Jesus. If our eyes are constantly focused on other people, if our eyes and our heart and our soul and everything is constantly focused on other people, we won't do what we're supposed to do, which is to follow him. That's what he wants us to do, friends. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. Follow him. Follow him. That's his command. So Comparison's the thief of joy, friends. You be faithful what God's called you to do and know that he'll lead you where he needs you to be. So, and that's John. So it's been fun being John with y'all. But tomorrow morning we will pick up looking at one of our morning reflections, one of our morning passages out of the morning office. So I look forward to doing that with you in the morning. So thanks for being with us and John, and we'll start something new tomorrow. And let me know what you'd like to study. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for being with us. Have a great day.